All right, everyone. Hey, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Co-hosts, yeah, awesome. Well, thanks to everyone for being here tonight. The session is being recorded, so if you have to jump off a little bit early or anything like that, we can send it to you. I am going to I have the pleasure tonight to introduce three of our guest speakers who all have experience with our MBA program. So I'm going to get right to that. And starting with our first guest speaker, Miss Olivia. Olivia, I'm going to give you the floor to go ahead and tell everybody a little bit more about yourself and what program you're in.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Olivia Marcy, and I am currently a student in the MBA Information Security program. Like I was telling my fellow panelists, I am in my last class before we take our study abroad trip. Supposed to be going in the beginning of November. So that's very exciting. And then we graduate at the end of 2021. And just a little background on me and, what I do for a career. So I work at Snowflake and I'm a sales engineer there. So providing technical solutions and proof of concepts and presentations to different federal customers. And this program has really been an incredible asset for me. For example, this yesterday, which is kind of why I'm losing my voice, Snowflake participated in the AWS Public Sector Summit. And I was one of the panelists on the Women in AI with Deloitte as the host of the panel. And, a lot of the topics that we discussed, like ethical AI and how you really create solutions that incorporate that into, whatever types of models or solutions you're creating. Everything we've learned in this MBA program has been very applicable to real world problems and what's being discussed in the industry. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. And just so you know, Olivia is almost there. She's right near the finish line in her final semester, so she can really speak from the current student experience. Next up, I am happy to welcome Joe Rochelle. Joe, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Rochelle. I graduated the Executive Leadership MBA program in December of 2019. Feels like just yesterday. I had such a good time in the program that it's crazy to think that it's almost been 2 years since I graduated. I currently work at RSM. I am part of their strategy and management consulting team. I primarily focus on human capital consulting, working a lot in the M&A space, helping clients set up new operations in HR. Which actually I landed the job as a result of my MBA. So I'm sure we'll get to that a little bit in the future. I'm a double Duke. I graduated my undergrad in 2011. I was an accounting and computer information systems major from JMU the first time around.
Awesome, Joe. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Next up, we have Christina calling in from the West Coast. Christina, welcome.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Christina Williams. I graduated from the MBA in Information Security. It's 2018. Time flies. It's been a while now, it feels like. Currently, I work for Microsoft. I'm a principal engineering manager. I work within Azure engineering, primarily helping customers, partners, ISVs, and startups leverage Azure and onboarding to our Azure platform.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. So what we're going to do, the format for this session is I have collated questions that we often get from prospects. So we're going to launch right into the first question, which is, what made you decide to pursue your MBA? And Olivia, because you are, I guess, closest to this decision in terms of time, I'd like for you to answer this one first.
Sure. So I'm also almost double Duke of JMU as well. So I was very familiar with the MBA program, specifically with information security coming out of the CIS major. So very familiar with the teachers and what the program teaches. So that was definitely a factor in deciding to choose JMU. And then pursuing my MBA, I started in federal consulting at Deloitte. And that's definitely a topic of conversation amongst all of when you start working in consulting, everyone, is like, oh, when would you like to get your MBA? What are you looking for? So I always had that in the back of my mind. And I really decided to make the move so that I'd be prepared and ready for becoming a manager at some point in my career.
Joe, will you take a stab at that one?
Sure. I mean, similar reasons to like what Olivia was saying. I was established within my company, but knew that I was looking for some sort of career advancement. I think part of the reason I was seeking the program is I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to kind of take everything that I had built upon in, my first 5 to 7 years of working and, leverage those skills and expand it and build a new skill set. And I think that's what the MBA did for me. And not only helped me kind of solidify more of what I wanted to do in my career long term, because you learn so much from your cohort and the people in the program about their opportunities, and it really kind of opens your eyes to different types of careers, different types of leadership styles. So I think for me, it really was driven kind of by wanting to advance my career and knew it would be a good kind of foundation to whatever I decided to get into in the future.
Awesome. Well, that's perfect for my next question, which Christina, I'm gonna kick to you. Why JMU? You're on the West Coast, right? So we have 2 Dukes. So we can, you guys had that great undergrad Duke experience. What made you choose JMU?
Yeah, so for me, a little bit on the previous question, my undergrad background is actually electrical engineering. And I started, so a quarter of my career was around engineering background development. But then I spent half of my career in the business domain where I got into the executive ranks. And now I pivoted back into more engineering and cybersecurity and cloud. But in doing that, I knew it was in the East Coast, but I really like the hybrid format of what JMU provides in terms of, you can get an online experience where you never actually meet anybody in person in many of these degree programs. And I thought, if you're going to do an MBA program, besides going full time, which I didn't feel like I wanted to do, but to do an online kind of hybrid program was ideal for me. And I think it gave me the best of both worlds. And so I flew out actually every 8 weeks to Washington, D.C. area and actually, was able to meet people and get some of that experience. And then during the in between, I still, you made the connections and made the friendships. And then when you're taking your classes, you just kind of build on it still. And then because we go as a cohort, it was a great kind of way of building that relationship as you go through the whole program. So it was, I liked it. And also because the information security piece appealed to me because of that's what the area I kind of pivoted into. And it was a good opportunity I didn't want to change careers per se. So it was a good add-on.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Joe, do you want to let us know why did you choose JMU to come back?
Yeah. So, I mean, I went into it kind of with a pretty open mind. I'm from the DC metro area. That's where I live currently. So there's a lot of MBA programs here. I have a lot of friends that graduated from JMU that had done a wide variety of programs. So I certainly talked to them about, what their experiences were. Some of them did full-time, some of them did a part-time virtual. What really stood out to me, like Christina said, was really the hybrid aspect. I liked that, it was half in person, half online. The cohort is such a huge part of that. And I know we'll talk on that a little bit later, but it really did help me feel more engaged in the program, knowing that I was seeing groups of people so frequently. I really also, I went back to JMU and talked with the director at the time about just like the faculty engagement, because I think that was something I was also looking for. I was a little bit apprehensive about it being, once a week online, but I did feel like I did get that sense of faculty engagement, which is something that JMU, I think, is known for nationally. Their small class sizes and really engaged faculty, both in their research and what they're doing externally in their connectivity to companies, but also with just the engagement with the students. And I feel like I definitely got that. So those are kind of the main things that, when I was looking for a program and doing some investigation, that stood out to me about JMU. And also, JMU is just such an amazing university. It really did. It truly defined the first half of my young professional career. And I think, going through the MBA program, I'd say it's 2 for 2 in the way that it's changed my personal and professional life.
I have to add to that from an outside perspective. I went to the University of Pittsburgh for my undergrad. And I watched now, and then JMU for my MBA, and I watched now the amount of attention that the undergrads get through the College of Business from JMU. It's incredible. I mean, they go on career treks where, they go through the DC and ride the metro and go on interviews. And, that is continued into the MBA program. So thank you for that. Let's go on to our next question, which is one I often get, and I want you to be honest on this because there's no right, wrong. Everybody learns at different paces, but a lot of times our students are balancing a full-time job, family, life, social. So everyone wants to know, how much time did you spend a week on classwork? And I think I'd love to have all three of you answer. Olivia, because you're closest to this and your answer is probably most valid. So let's start with you.
And one quick thing I wanted to add on to the last question that I know some people haven't really talked about, but two of the things that influenced my decision as well were the taking one class at a time, and then also the cost of the program. Some of my friends are doing other MBA programs, and it's an insane amount of money. And the ROI that you would get out of this program is probably 2-3x of other programs. So that always is a factor in my mind as well. Trying to stay out of loans, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you for that.
So that's a piece for me. So how much time did I spend a week on classwork? So it really varies per week, per class. So depending on if your class has group work, it's going to be a little heavier, probably the last 4 weeks of the class, because you're getting your paper done, you're getting your presentation done. Almost every class has a group project that's due at the end of the 8 weeks. So depending on the style of work that your group does, whether that's, meet for an hour earlier in the class, set the expectations, everyone kind of works individually, come back and, work together, or you work, in sync and you spend a couple hours together, really cranking out the project completely together. I think it depends on what the project is or what you're producing. So that probably is, the group work aspect of it. From a daily or weekly perspective, classes range from 1 to 3 hours, depending on what the professor, chooses for their class. And outside of that, I'd probably say, 2 to 3 hours of, if it's discussion posts, if it's reading, that kind of thing probably takes the longest. There's only a couple classes where you take tests. So those time tests take a little bit more time, but that's really only for a couple of the classes.
And usually those are more foundational classes in the beginning of the program that you'll, by the time second year rolls around, that you're more writing papers and for your finals.
That's for like statistics, econ, accounting, finance, like those 4 classes, can't get around tests for that. Everywhere you go, you'll have a test. So
perfect. Well said. Christina, do you want to?
Yeah,
do you remember?
Similar answer. I think besides the class time, it really depends on the type of class, because I was in information security. You get a range of, some of them were a little bit technical classes, some of them were, more business classes, and just how comfortable you are with the different topics and the format of the class. I would say, 2 to 6 hours or something of work besides what you go to the class is. And everybody kind of in our cohort did it kind of different. Some people did it after work. I tended to do it on the weekends just because my work was insane during the week. I just couldn't fit any mental space to do any kind of homework besides investing in the time for the class. So I did most of my stuff in the weekend. And the other part that was really beneficial in the program was it's a cohort. So my cohort decided to keep the same groups the entire program. So we had every time we did a group project, it was the same team. So we kind of leaned on each other, honestly. And sometimes, because life happens in 2+ years, that people have kids and get married and other things. And sometimes I was busy at work, and some classes maybe I leaned in because it was something I was really familiar with. And then some classes, honestly, some of my teammates leaned in and helped out when I was and I did a lot less maybe on the group project if it was something I was busy at the time.
Awesome. What about you, Joe? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. I think, again, it really depends on your comfort level with the class. For me, the accounting classes were pretty easy because it was, I had that core foundation, and that's the class a lot of people are fearful of. So I think, I think that is the big factor, is the classes where you're maybe not as comfortable or you don't have as much experience. It's probably going to take you a little longer. But I felt throughout the program, on average, there was no classes that I thought were like insanely hard and somewhere much easier. It was pretty balanced. I feel like the professors do a good job. They understand that you're working. And for a lot of them, this is an additional task too. So they're good at balancing it with your professional life. And I felt like for the most part, the level of effort and workload in each class was pretty consistent, which made it easy to plan your life around. Like, once you got through your first few classes, on average, okay, I'm going to be spending probably 3 to 4 hours a week on some sort of school work in addition to the class. But again, the group aspect does take a lot of the sting out of it because you're going through it together and you have that support system throughout the entire class, even on the individual projects, which is great.
Awesome. That's great. Just so you know, I was in the innovation program, so we took 2 classes at a time. But pretty much what you guys said, if you spend 3 hours in, I always often said that you spend 3 hours out preparing for class. So I ended up having 6 hours in through the innovation program, 6 hours in class. So would probably spend about 6 to 10 outside of class. But you find pockets in your day. There is a reason why they say, if you want something done, ask a busy person. It is very true. Olivia, I'm excited for you to be done the program. And then you're gonna, I think everybody goes through this where they're like, what do I do with myself? Like, oh my gosh, I have, wow, I have this night free. You realize your day is a lot longer. Awesome. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Actually, Christine, I'm going to start with you for this one. Did your employer support your decision for you to pursue your MBA? And how? And particularly with you flying across country, did you ever, ask, hey, could they cover the cost of that, or how did that work?
Yeah, so I was working at Cisco at the time. They have, of course, tuition assistance for master's programs. So I got that. I decided not to. There are special exceptions that you could have gotten to get like everything covered, but it comes with usually some contractual things. So I didn't want to do that. But they were completely supportive of me doing the MBA program because I was on the West Coast. The evening classes actually started in the 3-4 o'clock p.m. time where I was actually still working, and I just pretty much closed down my office and said, hey, I'm in class for a few hours. So that's what I did. And then I tended to fly on a Thursday or something and for the weekend. So I would be there by Friday and adjust for because usually it was an exam or a presentation or anything when we met. So no, I'm completely supportive of the decision to pursue my MBA.
Awesome. Olivia, you mentioned when you started at Deloitte, that was one of the questions. We have a lot of people who have worked with Deloitte, and it's right away. When are you going to get your MBA? It's not are you? It's a when. So
yes, or some other master's program. Yeah, Deloitte actually has a tuition assistance program, so they reimbursed up to a certain amount per year. So that was incredible. At my new employer, they don't really offer any sort of tuition assistance because it's a little bit more of a startup. But it just depends on where you work. But I do think that pursuing my MBA and my new company, knowing that I'd be finished within my first year of working there, I definitely think that influenced my job position there. So, yeah.
Awesome. And Joe, I want to jump to you, but before that, sometimes employers support in different ways. Like they allow for you to take that time off. Whether it's I'm shutting down early because of class, or I blocked off lunch twice a week to do reading, so I could chip away at it. And my boss, I was not working for JMU at the time, was really supportive of that and respected that. I had to set those boundaries myself, but that was really helpful that he bought into it. Joe, what about you?
Yeah, my employer was really supportive. And I actually talked to a lot of my mentors inside of work about pursuing my MBA and, just what their thoughts would be on work-life balance and, was it the right thing to go after to get where I wanted to get with my career. And so I had a lot of those conversations. So they were, pretty invested in the process of me throughout, studying for the GMAT and, or whatever, I think it was the GMAT we had to take, right? And then, so like from day one, they were very supportive of that. And they actually, the expectation, since they were paying for a portion, was that I would come back to my team in HR with any relevant things that I was learning or cool books that I had read or, things that I had learned about that would help us run our meetings more efficiently or anything like that. So it was kind of a two-way street. They were supportive of the workload and taking the time when I needed it. They were really flexible with my schedule, but also kind of expecting me to share with them what I was learning since they were paying for some of it.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. Yeah, actually, that's one of the first times I would naturally go back and share what I learned. And then, but that's great that that expectation was there. That's awesome. All right. This is one that often we get asked all the time. So since deciding to pursue your MBA, did you receive a promotion or change positions? I'd love to hear from all three of you again. Olivia, you want to kick us off? I kind of know the answer.
Yes. Yes. I accepted a new role this past February. So been at that job for 7 months. And I think, it was a great career move. And I do think that they definitely took, my MBA experience into account during the recruiting process.
Great. Christina?
Yes to both answers. So for both questions, when I was at Cisco, I did get promoted into a more of a senior management role there. And then as I, towards the end of it, I also moved to Microsoft, and where I have a director level role right now in engineering management.
Awesome. And Joe?
Yeah, it did. It helped me a lot. And I think, within my firm, JMU is really well known. We recruit really heavily from JMU, especially out of the undergrad programs. And so I was lucky that as I was going through kind of a career transition and changing from being one of our internal HR business partners to the external consulting role within our management consulting team, I met with the director that ran that team, and she recruits as part of the JMU team as well. So we've known each other for 10 plus years. And I was joining her team, and she basically went to the partner and was like, we want Joe. He's almost finished with his MBA. Normally there would be some sort of interview process even though it was an internal transfer, and they offered me the job. And again, it came with no interview, a pretty sizable pay increase. And I think a lot of that was due to, and especially the level that they brought me in at on the external team, I think a big piece of that was due to the MBA program and just the reputation that JMU has within my firm.
Wow, that's awesome. I am not paying these people, just so you guys know. They're saying this when they're, it's really well said. It's so great that our students, if anything should tell you what kind of program the MBA program is, it's the fact that our students have such great things to say. So I really appreciate you guys sharing your story.
And I think even like just one other thing to say throughout, I mean, it's not just the three of us, but it's evident throughout the program. I think, again, you're with the cohort, you're spending so much time with them, you're sharing a lot of your personal life. I think probably 3/4 of my cohort went through either some sort of career promotion or, changed into a new advanced role during the program or relatively shortly after. So it does pay dividends pretty quickly, I think.
Also, it's nice to have, just to add to that, when you're going through a transition, you have your cohort behind you that are cheering you on and telling you, you can do this. And, that is a great professional support system that you have there as well. This question I get asked almost daily, the information security program, how technical is it? So I have both Christina and Olivia. Christina, you want to let us know first?
Yeah, so they're a little bit of technical because you're kind of learning the information security lingo, and some of the classes are the basics of the terminology and understanding it. It's not super technical. You're not coding or anything like that. It's completely doable. It's just a new language in terms of terminology that you need to learn. And the cool thing is that the whole program is kind of framed around it. So even if you're taking a class on investments and stocks, you're reading a financial statement and seeing if a breach would impact their financial statement. So it's always interleaved in all the classes. So I wouldn't consider it that technical. And I think even if you come from a business background in today's world, unfortunately, breaches keep happening, that it's an understanding of security that you need to have in the executive world today. I think it gives you an advantage, whether you come from a technical background or not. I think it's an advantage to understand that terminology and what people are talking about when they talk about information security.
Awesome. Olivia, do you have anything?
Yeah, just one thing to add to, I think, if you're looking for if you want to learn Python and coding and all that kind of thing, I'm like an MBA probably wouldn't be the correct master's to be pursuing, but getting an MBA in information security means that you're learning the strategy behind what the executives are choosing and making decisions by. So I think those skills are, you could almost learn coding if you wanted to learn that, but learning that strategy, you can't really learn outside of an MBA program.
Thank you. That was well said. Thank you so much for that. I think you guys all answered this one already, but did you like the cohort experience? Do you have anything more to share to that?
I would say that
it's great.
Yeah, it's a great experience. I think Olivia hasn't done this one yet, but the international trip, honestly, with my cohort was the best. It was it was a great international trip. I think it was very nice in terms of just spending the time with the professors and the companies and things that we got to see. I was really surprised at the quality of what we got to do, but also it was just a fun experience, just running around with my cohort and doing stuff. And so we still talk about it today. We still have a Slack channel that we joke about, all this and reminisce about all the crazy things we ran around and did during our international trip.
Where did you guys go?
We went to Estonia and Denmark.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
agree. The trip with the cohort was one of the best experiences of the program. But I mean, throughout the cohort, I think we've touched on it 100 times. It really is for me, that was a really important factor as well. And the fact that you're doing the entire program with the same group of people, I think I have friends that have gone to other universities and have done the MBA, and their groups are constantly changing. It was really nice, especially like Christina was saying earlier, it does help with the workload once you really learn how everyone operates and you start to figure out, and coordinate your schedules together. The cohort aspect makes that a lot easier as well.
And my cohort tended to, if we could choose our groups, I think a lot of people went with, the team that they, work really well with and the same people, but a lot of classes have assigned groups too. So you make sure you get a best of both worlds. You're going to meet everybody. You'll always end up working with every single person in your cohort. So definitely, don't be worried that you'll have the same group the whole time too. But on the trip part, that was also one of the biggest factors for me, because I studied abroad during my undergrad time. And those are still some of my best friends that I keep in contact with and are in the same industry that I'm in. So, we all work together and share ideas and keep in the know of what's going on with that group. So I'm excited to experience that from an MBA level.
Awesome. Olivia, I'll be on that trip with you. I can't wait.
Where are you going, Olivia?
We're supposed to be going to Germany.
Oh, nice.
We are going to Germany. We're going.
Push it back. You gotta be very optimistic, but I know. I told him, I said, I don't care if I have to wait. I'll wait a couple months to go. It's okay.
Okay, we're going. What are the in-person sessions like? We all kind of touched on this, but for some of you that have to travel a little bit further, we really feel at the program level that these in-person sessions are worth it. It sets that foundation moving forward, but just from experience, what are they like? Joe, you want to start?
Sure. I love the in-person sessions. You arrive on a Saturday morning. There was always a really nice breakfast with a lot of options out there. And the cool thing was they always, at least when I was going through it, all of the, everyone was in person on the same day. So information security was there, the executive MBA. And so you're all out there grabbing breakfast and intermingling, and, you take accounting first, they take it second. So you're kind of just talking about the class you're in and what's going on at work. So it's not just the experience with your cohort, but it's the experience with the other ones as well. And then you go into class and, you sit there in person with your professor. They typically, at least in all of my experience, they try to do some sort of like group activity or something. So you're not just sitting there like being talked at like you are, online. They were always very engaging sessions. There was either some sort of group presentation or group work part of it. And then in the executive MBA, I don't know if it's still like this, Lauren, or not, but we also we met so we met at the middle of the semester as well. And then we had an afternoon session where we would do some sort of, meeting with the executive coach, or there'd be a guest speaker that would come in. So whenever we did have those like Saturday afternoon courses, I always thought they were really beneficial.
Awesome. Well, slightly different, Joe, from when you went through the program. They meet every 8 weeks, just like information security now. However, we still do have our executive coaches for the executive leadership program, and they are going to be hosting seminars. The executive leadership coach is kind of the one person that's with you throughout the program in our executive leadership program. So it's nice to have that option as well. Christina, were the in-person sessions worth the flight?
Completely worth it. It really nice to come in. It was a nice layout in a hotel, nice breakfast and all that. But we did one class at a time. So the in-person session, the first half was to finish the previous class, the class that you're in, and the second half was to start the next class. But the completing session was either a group presentation or sometimes exams, but a lot of presentations and other things and activities. So that was really, really nice just to do that. And we had fun things. We had, some costumes once. I think Darth Vader showed up for one of our presentations. It was just a cool way of actually seeing people, like I said previously, and meeting people in person. And after the class, we always there was always groups of us that would, get a beer, hang out in the bar in the hotel, and just get to know each other, and just caught up with, hey, what's happened in the last 2 months since we saw each other. We talked during the, online, but just get some snacks, catch a beer or drink, and just see how everyone's doing in their lives and in their careers.
That's awesome. I love that. And as the world returns to normal, the program does hope to facilitate some more of those sessions that you can hang out with your cohort that aren't necessarily mandatory, but, kind of have them available to you. All right. I noticed that we are a little bit at a little bit over our 6 o'clock stop time. So this is going to be our last question and our sign-off question. I'm going to start with Olivia and then end with Joe. So Christina, you'll be in the middle there. And if you have any further questions post this session too, this is not the last time we hope to talk to you. I am here all the time working for the program. My favorite part of my job is to get to talk to prospective students. So I will be emailing you all after the session with an application fee waiver. And if you have any further questions, or if you want to schedule a one-on-one call, I'd be happy to do that. I do see at least one familiar face who I've talked to on the call tonight. So thanks for joining us. And let's finish with this one. Olivia, what piece of advice would you give?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I tell my friends, whether they're JMU grads, whether they're people I work with, when I say, look at the JMU MBA program, here's the 3 things that I love about the program that I think make a difference in when you're choosing, if you're between different programs, if you're choosing if you should get an MBA or not. The topic of information security is extremely relevant to almost every single role, regardless of where you sit in your company or your business. It's relevant and it affects everybody. So that's a great opportunity. The hybrid portion of this program makes it so much more, doable when you're still working. And that was a big piece a deciding factor for me, because I was also considering, should I leave work for 2 years, go full-time and get my MBA? But you're missing out on real world work experience that relates to what you're doing in class. So having it be part-time and, 1 class at a time was doable for me, and I wouldn't, miss out on any progression that I'm making in my career. And then my MBA at the same time is, accelerating it. So that's the second. And then the third is truly the cost. I think, JMU's ROI for undergrad and graduate is incredible. And I think that's something people definitely should take into consideration, because, especially if you have undergrad student loans, you definitely want to make the best financial decision that you can from, for a business program. You have to look at it from a financial perspective as well. So what's the amount of money that I can spend that's an incredible program that's going to make sure that, I can't guarantee a raise, but, I would most likely get a raise out of the program, and, I'm learning and able to still, reach any financial goals that I have for yourself. And Lauren, I don't know if I think my friend Derek. I gave him that sales pitch, and he's in the program and absolutely loving it. So
You're that's awesome.
Yeah. Derek is one of my good friends from undergrad as well. So he's a hoot and a half. So
Yeah.
he's able to be, he got promoted, just a side note, he got promoted to be a sales manager, which is incredible, being 3 or 4 years out of school. And he's an extremely successful DJ on the side. So he is, traveling around the world and still able to do all 3 of those things with the MBA program. So I think that's a pretty, telling sign that it's a extremely great program.
And he's raising money for charity, which is also another thing he's doing. He's doing a lot. So he's awesome.
Wait, he couldn't get on the panel. He's too busy. I'm kidding.
I know. Christina, what advice would you give?
Yeah, I did my MBA later in my career, and my advice is if you're thinking of doing an MBA, and especially the JMU program, which is really, really designed well for working professionals, that I always thought it was going to be too much to do with my career, that you can do it. You can make it, you'll find the time and you can do it and it's worth it. Don't wait is my advice. And just, pull the trigger, start it, do it, you'll finish it, and it'll be worth it for your career and your growth.
Awesome. Thank you. Joe?
The one thing, thinking about it from like an advice perspective, I always, the thing that was critical for me, and I always tell people when they're thinking about the MBA, is try to get one calendar that syncs your work schedule, your school schedule, and your personal schedule all in one place, or at least one place where you can view it all, because I feel like that for me was the easiest way that I could hold myself accountable. I would schedule my time. Like if I knew Wednesday evenings was going to be my 2 hours, I'd stay at the office and finish out my MBA program. I could see that on my schedule. If a friend was like, hey, do you want to grab happy hour? I would have to commit to that. It was already scheduled in there. So that for me was kind of how I really helped myself manage it, was try to get all of those things synced in one place so you can manage your life a bit easier. But in general, the program itself is very manageable. It's just easier way to stay organized.
Awesome.
One piece I wanted to add too. So obviously before COVID, when we all had commutes, if something happened at work and, I had to leave later than I usually would plan to get home, it's incredible what your phone can do. You can log into class from your phone. And I would usually message the teacher and be like, hey, I'm so sorry. I had to stay late at work. I'm on my way home. It took me an hour and a half to get home every day. So, in the middle of my commute, I'd be, muting myself, talking, engaging with the class. And I think that everybody has life going on and everybody knows that, things happen. So I think that's important to evaluate too, that it doesn't conflict with and impact anything you're doing at work.
Awesome. Also, I have to say at the MBA level, I think all of our professors know that you're going above and beyond, right? So there's a little bit less of that weed out process that we hear about at that undergrad level, because you've already read yourselves out by even attending today's session, right? I think I said this at orientation, Joe, you were there, that the hardest part of the MBA program for me was showing up to that orientation. It's true. Naturally, once you start, you'll finish. We have 96% of our students finish. And so that's a telling statistic right there. Thank you all. Thank you, my guest speakers. You guys are so awesome. I myself learned things from listening to the three of you, and I can't thank you enough. You are the reason why this program is so great. It's truly the students, it's the cohort. The professors are an added plus, but this is what it's really all about. And everybody who joined us, thank you for joining us. I will be emailing you first thing tomorrow morning, and with an application fee waiver. And also, if you have any questions, you can reach back out via email. Great. All right, guys. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks, Kylie. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.